narcissists generally don't grow wise with age. Reconnecting with them, if they've been out of your life for some time, will reopen old wounds. Hi, this is Jim Breon. Welcome to this YouTube channel where we discuss all things mental health. The topic today is something I've actually had a lot of questions about recently and have been working with some of my clients with this issue. And it's dealing with an aging narcissist parent. If you think about that, if you've grown up with a narcissistic parent, whether they're an overt narcissist or a covert narcissist, you've probably spent your entire life, dealing with emotional chaos, gaslighting, being devalued, emotional manipulation. And as a narcissist ages, there's been some research that suggests that some narcissists kind of soften a little bit with age, but that's not something that you can count on. And in most cases, they don't. In fact, they often get worse. If you think about a narcissist who is extremely vain and concerned about their appearance, and then when their body starts changing shape without their permission, and they start losing their looks and they start becoming more invisible, as unfortunately in our society that's what happens with people as they age, a lot of their narcissistic behaviors actually grow much worse. They don't turn into sweet little old ladies and kind old men. What happens is they start to lose their identity and become angrier and angrier at the world and the people around them. A narcissist never forgets slights, but they never admit their faults either. And as they grow lonely and depressed, often because people don't want to have anything to do with them any longer, they still need that attention, that narcissistic supply. And narcissists generally don't grow wise with age. So taking care of a parent who's a narcissist can really create a lot of very difficult emotions for people. You might feel guilty if you even think about, I don't want to have anything to do with them. Or maybe you've been no contact with them for some time and now they're reaching out to you, or somebody else reaches out to you and they're asking you for help. And that idea of putting yourself back into the firing line again after creating healthy distance for yourself can create a lot of problems in a person's life. People feel guilt for even having boundaries and for living their own life. Remember that the core traits of a narcissist are the grandiosity, the need for attention and validation, the lack of empathy, manipulation, deceitfulness. They have an antagonistic personality style. They can often be very callous. And for a more covert narcissist, there's this victim mentality that they've lived with forever. And especially when they start to age and they need help to function with their daily activities, that victim mentality gets even more pronounced. And as a child of a narcissistic parent, you're going through a grief and loss period just because your parent is entering the end stages of their life. You're also grieving, and probably have been grieving for many years, the loss of the parent that you never had, that you always needed. You can have anxiety just being around them, and often releasing the fantasy bond that someday this person is going to turn out to be the parent that I've always needed. That's a big part of our own personal growth process. But you can end up feeling responsible to take care of a parent who never actually cared for you. And that's a very difficult place to be in. Reconnecting with them, if they've been out of your life for some time, will reopen old wounds. And even being in closer contact with them as they need more of your help is going to reopen wounds. Something important to recognize and to remember, though, is that you do have options. There's still the option of limiting your contact, and there's still the option of remaining out of contact or having no contact with them. Those are legitimate boundaries that are often employed as a form of self-protection. Often what happens is there's concern that if I don't care for them, they're going to cut me out of the will. That's actually a threat that a lot of narcissistic parents make towards kids. And that's a way of getting them to manipulating them to get them to do what it is that they want. Again, it's the financial abuse, which is one of the tactics that a narcissist will use. You still have to set your own boundaries. You have to have limits. You have to create healthy distance for yourself. And remember to not engage and not get caught up defending yourself all the time. And the hardest part of all is not taking personally all of those behaviors. You know, you may have done years of therapy and working on a relationship that's been intense and meshed. Adult children of narcissists often have intense guilt for not wanting to be there to cater to their every whim and desire. So if this is the case for you, if you haven't already, educate yourself about narcissism. Understand what it really is and recognize that their personality traits or disorder is not about you. So you can't take that personally. You're living with parents who are emotionally immature. You've probably spent years being triangulated. That parent may have played chess, so to speak, with you and your siblings and other people in order to achieve whatever that they want. But you have to accept that they're not going to change. It's not about you, and they're not going to change. That's where you have to really practice radical acceptance with this, meaning that I recognize what I control and what I can't control. And the things that I don't like, that I can't control, I'm going to decide that I'm going to stop my resisting all of that stuff. If you are not in therapy, get yourself back into therapy, because this is a really difficult time to go through. You will need to work through your conflicted feelings, hopefully learn some new skills and strategies for coping, and remember or learn how to set boundaries and limits. If it's possible, get help, whether it's hospice or in-home health care. And I know that those things are very difficult for many people, but do the best you can to get some help so that you're not burdened all by yourself with all of this. And you have to maintain a life that energizes you. Don't allow caring for them to become the only thing that you do. You have to practice self-care. You have to do things that make you feel happy, positive, and alive. So what that means is not giving up all of your needs or getting lost in rescuing, people-pleasing, and sacrificing everything for that person. Remember that they have a limited ability to love and have compassion and to take another person's perspective, and your needs will always come second to theirs. The real struggle here is that you're trying to be selfless in this moment, and they're still selfish. So consider what your needs are. Do you need to just really limit the contact? Do you need to go no contact or remain no contact? And remember that when you do that, it has to be 100%. One of the hardest lessons is learning how to detach with love. That means deciding what your boundaries are and communicating them. And two of the main reasons that people struggle to communicate boundaries is they're afraid of what the other person's going to think, or they have undue guilt. So you've got to process that guilt and ask yourself, should I really feel guilty for having these feelings? Some of the things that you can expect from an aging narcissist parent is temper tantrums, angry outbursts, lashing out at you. They may have done that your whole life. And as they start to decline, a lot of those behaviors often increase. You have to work to shore up your self-esteem and make your needs a priority. Often you have to practice that gray rock approach, meaning you don't share things that make you emotionally vulnerable to them. You need to find support, whether that's professional help or surrounding yourself with loving people that get you and understand the situation. And you need to practice self-care. Sometimes that means just stopping throughout the day and breathing, taking some time to relax, practicing mindfulness, practicing self-compassion. You have to expect that they're going to guilt you if you're not giving them enough attention or you're not doing it the right way. And you're probably going to hear, after all that I've done for you, ultimately they will drain your energy. And they may try to engage you in arguments to get you emotionally off center so that they can then look and say, see what I have to deal with, see what I've dealt with my whole life. Now, when you are dealing with an elderly parent who is a narcissist and also has dementia, this really complicates things. And there actually are some connections between narcissism and dementia. There's a lot more research that needs to be done, and we don't really understand the connections fully. But caring for an aging narcissistic parent with dementia can be a really fraught experience. With various forms of dementia, they may start to actually forget things, and then you think this is gaslighting because you've been gaslit your whole life. But they could actually have real memory problems. They might blame you for their forgetting. With things like vascular dementia, an elderly person might, hide their purse behind the curtains because they don't know that young lady that came in, and they don't want anybody taking their stuff, and then they forget where they put it. And then they get angry and they accuse you of taking it, of hiding it. That creates all kinds of just mind games. Because remember that nothing is ever their fault. And it can be a real minefield that you're working through, trying to sort out, are they gaslighting me? Are they projecting on me? Are they really forgetful? And you go back and forth between being angry and feeling bad about yourself because they're helpless, and how could I even think things like that? Even dealing with a parent who's not a narcissist, who's suffering from Alzheimer's, is one of the most difficult things I think anybody goes through. And still, often a caretaker for someone struggling with Alzheimer's disease, the caretaker actually dies before the Alzheimer patient does. Your parent is not going to grow out of their narcissism as they age. They're not going to become wise with age. You're going to have to work on your own process, and maybe even with a therapist, on letting go, on forgiveness. Or if you're not able, ready, or willing to forgive, maybe just creating an intention to forgive. Maybe that's not where you're at all. Sadly, many children, adult children of narcissists, feel tremendous relief when that parent is finally no longer here. And that brings up more guilt a lot of times. But the reality is that, you've been through a lifetime of emotional manipulation. You've probably developed your own mental health issues as a result of it. And to not have that in your life, it is a relief just not to have that in your life. Although the legacy of living with a narcissistic parent will still be with you, and you may still have to continue to work on undoing those effects. Know that your feelings are normal. You have to validate your own emotions. You're not crazy, you're not making stuff up. Based on everything that you've been through, what you're thinking and feeling makes sense. Hopefully, through this process, you can somehow find peace and rebuild your sense of self so you can continue to carry on with your own life. I'd really love to hear what people think, and I'd encourage you to leave comments and maybe start a conversation about this topic, because it is something that I think a lot of people are dealing with. And if the videos are helpful, I encourage you to like and subscribe, sign up for notifications, so we'll let you know when more material is coming out. Until the next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Bye-bye.